The Calvaxian Empire measured worth in meters, literally. Mary stood at barely 1.6 meters tall, a runt by human standards, microscopic by galactic ones. The average Calvaxian warrior towered at 3.2 meters, their crystalline exoskeletons gleaming under the twin suns of Apex Prime. When she first arrived at the Imperial Academy, the intake officer had stared down at her with 4 compound eyes and asked if she was a juvenile. "No, sir," Mary had replied, chin up. "I'm 23 standard years old." The officer's mandibles had clicked in what she'd later learned was laughter. Corey wasn't much better off. At 175 meters, he was the second shortest being in their combat cohort of 200 cadets. The 2 humans had been placed in Squad Omega, the defective unit, where the Empire sent those too small, too weak, or too broken to fit anywhere else. Their squad mates were the rejects of a dozen species: Vronti, with malformed wings, Thessian shock troops with dulled bioelectric capabilities, and one particularly depressed Gorkon who'd been born with only 6 arms instead of the standard 8. "They'll wash us out in a week," Corey muttered on their first day, watching a squad of elite Calvaxian soldiers march past in perfect formation, each one a towering monument to genetic superiority. Mary adjusted the oversized armor that hung loose on her small frame. "Then we'll prove them wrong in 6 days." The Calvaxian doctrine was simple. Height equals reach, reach equals dominance, dominance equals victory. Their combat arenas were designed for giants, high walls to scale, weapons built for massive grips, obstacles that required enormous strides to overcome. Squad Omega failed every simulation in the first month. "Humans are structurally inefficient," Instructor Vexthal announced after their 5th consecutive loss, his voice booming across the training grounds. "Your compact frames lack the leverage for proper combat. Perhaps your species should reconsider military service entirely." That night, in the cramped barracks reserved for substandard cadets, Mary sat cross-legged on her bunk, analyzing tactical footage on her datapad. Corey joined her, bringing 2 ration packs. "We can't beat them at their own game," Mary said, her brown eyes flickering with reflected light from the screen. "We're smaller, weaker by their metrics. But humans didn't become Earth's apex predator by being the biggest or strongest." "Persistence hunting," Corey said, understanding immediately. "Endurance, adaptability." "And psychology," Mary added with a grim smile. "Fear is a great equalizer." They started training Squad Omega differently. While other squads focused on strength drills and honor combat, Mary and Corey taught unconventional warfare. They showed the Vronti with broken wings how to use their smaller profile for stealth. They trained the Thessian to use his diminished electrical charge in precise, targeted strikes rather than broad-area attacks. The 6-armed Gorkon became their fastest climber when he stopped trying to match his 8-armed cousins and started using his reduced weight as an advantage. The turning point came during the mid-cycle trials. The scenario was brutal: a simulated hostage rescue in an asteroid mining facility overrun by Kresh pirates. The facility's narrow corridors and low ceilings had been adjusted to standard galactic proportions, meaning they were built for beings over 2 meters tall. Elite squads went in first. They breached with overwhelming force, their massive frames filling doorways, their heavy weapons shattering walls. And they failed, one after another. The simulated Kresh, designed to match Calvaxian size, met them head-on in honorable combat and won through sheer programmed ferocity. "Squad Omega, you're up," Vexthal announced, his tone suggesting he expected entertainment rather than success. Mary's squad entered the facility like ghosts. They didn't breach through doors. They found maintenance shafts and ventilation systems that larger beings couldn't access. The Vronti scout squeezed through a 50-centimeter gap that no full-sized warrior could navigate. Corey led a three-person team through a waste disposal tunnel, emerging behind enemy lines. They didn't fight honorably. They ambushed, they flanked, they disappeared into shadows that couldn't hide larger bodies. The six-armed Gorkon climbed across ceilings, dropping flashbangs from above. The Thessian waited in darkness, his precise electrical strikes disabling targets with surgical efficiency. And Mary. She'd studied the Kresh psychology files. She knew they were pack hunters who relied on intimidation, so she did something no Calvaxian would ever consider. She broadcasted fear. Using the facility's intercom, she played sounds of her squad mates' deaths, screams, weapons fire, desperate final transmissions. She made the simulation think Squad Omega was being slaughtered. The Kresh AI, programmed to expect glory, instead found itself stalking through corridors filled with phantom threats, never knowing where the real attack would come from. When it was over, Squad Omega had completed the mission in 12 minutes, 3 minutes faster than the best elite squad's attempt, with 0 casualties. The observation deck was silent. Vexthal descended to the arena floor, his massive frame somehow seeming smaller. He stopped before Mary, looking down at the tiny human who barely reached his mid-thorax. "Explain your tactics, Cadet Mary of Earth." She met his compound eyes without flinching. "Sir, we used the terrain that larger warriors ignore. We employed strategies that honor-bound combat doctrine considers beneath notice. We turned our size from a weakness into an asset." She paused. "We fought like humans, sir. Like prey that learned to hunt." The instructor's mandibles clicked, but this time it wasn't laughter. It was something closer to respect. "The Empire measures worth in meters," he said slowly. "Perhaps we've been using the wrong metric." 6 months later, Squad Omega graduated at the top of their class. The Calvaxian Empire quietly began redesigning their tactical doctrine, incorporating small-unit asymmetrical warfare into their training programs. Mary and Corey stood at attention during the ceremony, medals glinting on their properly fitted armor. Around them, their squad mates, the broken, the defective, the cast aside, stood equally tall in spirit if not in stature. "Still think we're structurally inefficient?" Corey whispered. Mary smiled. "Let them keep thinking that. It's our best weapon." In the audience, Instructor Vexthal watched the smallest graduates in Academy history receive their commissions. He clicked his mandibles thoughtfully, already drafting new training protocols. The cubs had been born small and cast aside, but a human had proven what the galaxy was only beginning to learn, that the most dangerous predators aren't always the ones you can see coming. Sometimes they're the ones small enough to slip through the cracks.